Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Full house. Can I please have a motion to enter a regular business meeting? Motion by Mr. Tanya, second by Mrs. Weiss. All in favor? 5-0. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the business meeting of November 16th, 2017? Motion by Mrs. Weiss, second by Mr. Tanyo. All in favor? 5-0. I believe we have some excellent students and teachers to commend this evening. Dr. Bosser.
We have a host of excellent individuals who are valued members of the Elwood family to recognize tonight. To begin doing that, I'd like to call upon our high school principal, Mrs. Brzezinski.
Good evening, Dr. Bosser, District Administration, members of the Board of Education, and members of the Elwood community. Once again, I have the distinct pleasure and opportunity to highlight another one of our exceptional students for his achievement on the PSAT, which you know is a national merit qualifying test. As I mentioned at the last Board of Education meeting, the National Merit Scholarship selects those students who earn the highest index score on the PSAT to qualify for recognition in the National Merit Scholarship Program. Out of the 1.6 million students who take the PSAT, approximately 34,000 earn the distinction as a commended student. John Glenn High School had 2 students who have received this outstanding distinction. Last meeting, I recognized Joe Francis, and tonight I am proud to present to you Brendan Harrigan as one of the other 2 students to be recognized. Please come up, Brendan. To share some remarks about Brendan. In addition to performing well on the PSAT, Brendan is a hardworking student athlete and stands out as a leader in the senior class. Brendan values his education and is determined to get the most out of his schooling. He has taken a demanding curriculum and challenged himself each year, and in his senior year, he continues to do so by taking 4 of the most rigorous AP classes that we offer: Advanced Placement Earth Science, Environmental Science, Government and Politics, Calculus, and Spanish. Brendan's work ethic and commitment to getting the most out of his education is notable. Brendan's teachers have shared that he is an active participant in class, is not afraid to ask questions, or take ownership of his learning. As such, he has maintained a weighted GPA of a 97.43 and will be graduating this June, having earned summa cum laude distinction. In addition to his remarkable resume, Brendan has also been a significant member of the John Glenn football team. He has served as the captain of the JV team during his sophomore year, and as a result of his talent and dedication, he moved up to the varsity team. Brendan continued to give the team 100%, and this year he served as the varsity captain. His accomplishments in the athletic arena have also resulted in his most recent recognition of being selected to the National Football Foundation and College Hall of Fame. In addition to being a remarkable student athlete, Brendan also possesses strong character and resiliency. He is a very independent, responsible person. He's resourceful and motivated. He has a positive attitude and a drive to do well and is determined to reach his goals. His performance on the PSAT and his success all around, once again, is a true testament of his hard work, perseverance, the support of his mother and father, who are here with us this evening, and the quality education that he has received in the Elwood School District. He was recently accepted to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville and has applied to other prestigious institutions, such as Clemson, University of Maryland Park, NC State, Syracuse, University of Buffalo, and Virginia Tech. I am confident that wherever he lands, he will continue to make a positive imprint and experience great success in the future. So on behalf of Mr. Cole, Mr. Coletti, and myself, We thank you for serving as a role model to our students, and as one of 2 students who have earned this tremendous distinction, you really make us very proud. Congratulations.
To recognize our next 2 outstanding members of our faculty and staff, I'd like to call upon our Boyd principal, Dr. Denise Toscano.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Good evening. It gives me great pleasure, and I'm honored to present Mrs. Held a recognition by the Board of Education. Ms. Held is being acknowledged for being a master teacher, but also being recognized as a pre-finalist in the 2017 New York State Teacher of the Year Ambassador Program. Here is one excerpt from her application. Expectations are high, both for children and for myself. Together, we have established a wonderful, cooperative environment and a positive rapport with each other. Technology is embedded into my daily lessons and makes seemingly mundane tasks become more engaging. My reading groups utilize technology where students use the Epic app to access a rich library of books, and each student is able to download the same title and share their comments with each other digitally. Children also use QR codes to take lunch counts and sign out for the bathroom. When you walk in there, it's all tech. Students have Skype with other 3rd grade classes around the world, allowing them to discover similarities and differences with others. They become digital pen pals with students in Australia. When studying China, the students use Google Expeditions and virtually visit the Great Wall of China. Students use robots for coding and Dash and Dot robots to teach geometry. Students have created their own websites and movies as part of their biography research. Ms. Held is a lead teacher, and she coordinates STEM activities for the entire 3rd grade. Throughout the year, there are various other curricular opportunities for all students to engage in this passionate learning. She has designed Cranberry STEM Day, Fairy Tale STEM Day, Living History Wax Museum, the Potato Olympics, and her newest idea, the book tasting, where students got to taste all different book genres. Parents are invited to attend all of the above events to give them the opportunity to experience firsthand how their children are learning. By using Seesaw, students are able to photograph, video, or write to their parents to explain what they are doing in the class in real time. She also uses Class Dojo to communicate with parents about students' behavior and about their successes. She has written and received over 20 grants, totaling $50,000. These grants provided innovative technology for our school. The newest and latest of those ideas is our Makerspace room, where children are encouraged to create and problem solve. Students also participate in philanthropy activities, such as making Halloween goodie bags for hospitalized children, collecting toiletries for the veterans, and writing Valentine's Day cards for nursing home residents. Ms. Held is a leader in her field and has shared her expertise with other professionals to help them grow. She presented at the Suffolk Asset Conference and has also presented to her own colleagues at Superintendent's Conference Day. She provided a workshop on how to use Seesaw in the classroom to enrich learning and bring parents into the classroom virtually. I am so thankful for Ms. Held's work ethic, creativity, leadership, and ability to share and help other professionals grow. Congratulations on the job well done.
3, 2, 1. Great. Congratulations.
So I didn't make Ms. Held stand up because I knew that she was going to turn purple because she would be so embarrassed. However, Mr. Barrett does have to stand up. It is a great honor to present Mr. Wayne Barrett for recognition to the Board of Education tonight. Mr. Barrett holds the CW2 position and is the night lead custodian at James H. Boyd. A custodian's job is so important. Mr. Barrett has work ethic that is bar none. I have never known a custodian that takes such pride in his job. Mr. Barrett allows us to maintain a school building that is clean, student-centered, bright, friendly, and positive. Over the past 4 years, Mr. Barrett has been my right-hand man in beautifying James H. Boyd. He is a man that never says no. He is always willing to jump in and help in any way. He serves as an excellent work model for everyone. He has painted every classroom and hallway in that building. He takes initiative and addresses problems before they occur. He believes the building is a reflection of himself, and it shows. Mr. Barrett works countless hours of overtime, and it is not uncommon to find him working at 3 p.m. in 98-degree weather, weeding the front garden. I am so appreciative to work alongside you as a passionate professional. You are a leader, you are a superstar, and in addition, you are one of the kindest and humblest people I know. Thank you for always going above and beyond. You're one of a kind.
Expressing my thanks and gratitude, I want to extend your congratulations also for Mr. McDonald. Unfortunately, he was unable to join us tonight. He's dealing with a family emergency, but I wanted to make sure that you knew full support of this system. Thank you for all that you do. So it's a very small subject to try to.
Again, 3, 2, 1.
Now, the act that nobody wanted to follow, I will call upon our athletic director and favorite coach, Mr. Shanahan, to present a wonderful group of student athletes.
Folks, before I get to the girls, I just want to, recognize Brendan Harrigan again, because a little bit of tidbit of information I want to share with you is that part of your award of Golden 11 Scholar Athlete is that when the information is processed, the National College Hall of Fame is in Atlanta, Georgia. When you go down there, if you pull a kiosk out, you type your name in, your name will be enshrined as the 2017 Suffolk County Scholar Convention. Dr. Bosser, Administration, Board of Education, I'm proud to present to you our Suffolk County and Long Island Championship girls. Our championship volleyball girls are coached by Coach Shermoli and Coach Franco, who could not be here tonight. Our girls team represent themselves, the team, their parents, the community with class and dignity throughout the entire year, and we really appreciate that. Most importantly, besides the winning, is the memories you girls have created for each other. The memories on the court and off the court are the most important things. You girls will be bonded forever. 10 years from now, you'll be talking about your high school experiences when you go out with each other, your 10-year reunion, 20-year reunion. Remember when this happened. Those are great memories to have and to share with your parents. So again, I congratulate you on what you created here in Elwood. The memories, the championships, these are so hard to do. Winning one game at the varsity level is hard, but winning championships is so hard. So I commend you. On a personal note, when I went to the state championship, I was so impressed with your empathy, your caring. I know Jen got hurt. You girls, I actually saw it in the gym. I was in the gym when she went down, and all you girls rallied to her support. Not only worry about her physically, but about her mentally. And you girls really are what I categorize a tremendous team. And that's what carried you through to the state championship. So on behalf of Dr. Bossert, myself, the Board of Education, again, congratulations. I'd like to bring up their coach, Coach Hermoli, to represent each girl with their certificate. Coach, congratulations.
All right, so first of all, thank you so much for first allowing me to co-chair. It was a great pleasure, and I had a great time. Anytime you come to work and have a great time, to see that and get to know great people, it's always a good day at the workplace. So I'm very proud of these girls that worked hard. And I'm excited to see what we can do next year. So we've got some building to do. All right, so the first person I'm going to call up is Jen Brennan. This next person could not be here. She's actually on her practicing at her club team. So Mia Sturgo. The next person I would like to call up is Cassandra Vitale. Next person I'd like to call up is Caroline Miller. Next person, Mia Sansanelli. Hannah Lotion. Gianna Dailila. Next person I'd like to call up is Megan Borda. Caroline Garrettson. Cassidy Evans. Krista Brooke. Vanessa Cassandra. Sophia Cirillo. The next few are girls who are not here today, but they are girls that wound up playing for us at playoffs. They did a great job filling in for us and helping us train, and filled in where they were needed. So congratulations to them all. Sophia, I still can't say it. How do you say it? Adriana Rosado, and Lauren Goulet.
Thank you so much. And I also would be remiss if I did not say that Coach T was voted Suffolk County Coach of the Year. Congratulations.
has brought a tremendous amount of pride to the district, and as Coach Shanahan said, even more so than the winning, is the way you've conducted yourself, the way you've represented our school, and the way that you've put scholar ahead of athlete. You're an impressive group of young ladies, and we look forward to watching you find even higher in the future. So congratulations to you. I will congratulate the senior. We will watch you grow from afar. I have one short, funny story. Forgive me if some of you have heard this already. I have a daughter who plays volleyball also. She played on an under-JV JV team, probably this year. And so I suggested to Coach Shanahan, perhaps we can do a scrimmage, and it would be great to have my daughter come to Glenn and play some volleyball. He said, Dr. B, I don't know if you want to do that. And I said, yeah, it'd be fun. It would be great, just a visit. And then I came and watched you play. And I said, oh my God, someone's gonna get hurt. If we bring that little, they won't watch. If we bring that little poor team here, they might leave on stretchers. So it's such a pleasure to watch you play and really watch you appreciate the game and enjoy the game and play it the right way. So congratulations on just an incredible season.
We need to clean out.
You did a shuffling this way, Mr. Sinclair? You got it. You got it?
Really? Good, you get to everybody.
Okay, ready, coach? 3, 2, 1. I'm going to do one more, okay? Ready?
Stay put for parents. Stay put for parents.
Okay. Well.
Oh, yeah. Send me that. Yeah. I got to drop her outside. Even Coach cut his hair. What? I said even Coach cut his hair to get the video. You have What happened? Next year.
Our last name is DeLillo. It has a vowel, just like you. We should all vowel family. Really? Vowel
While we're transitioning, I just want to thank the Board of Education for giving district leadership the opportunity to recognize so many outstanding members of the Elwood community at board meetings, increasing the tradition of not only recognizing students, but also outstanding members of our faculty and staff has been very well received, and we appreciate you being flexible with your time and allowing us to do that. So thank you to the board as well.
I was just about to thank you for the diverse commendations that we got. It was a real pleasure listening to people getting honored, staff, as well as students. So it was a feel-good night. Thank you for bringing that to us.
I'll continue to do so.
The next part of the meeting are board recognition of donations that we're expected to approve later on. Mrs. Marcus.
Continuing the feel-good evening, receiving donations always feel good. We would like to recognize the donation from the Elwood Booster Club of $750 to fund the public speaking club at James H. Boyd Intermediate School. Thank you. We would like to recognize the donation from the College Board of $500 to offset additional costs incurred in administering the AP exams. The donation by Harley Avenue Primary School PTA of $3,090 to fund the purchase of new tables at Harley Avenue Primary School. Thank you. The Elwood Middle School PTA is donating 18 books, estimated at a value of $200, that they made from the Scholastic Book Fair. And also $1,142.48 in Scholastic dollars to purchase books and materials through the Scholastic Toolkit website. So thank you for those donations. And many of those organizations are built upon community members' donations to those organizations. So thank you to those that donate to those causes.
Absolutely, the PTA is always there to support us, and I believe the Booster Club has a fundraising event coming up this Sunday at the Ingerman Theater, and I believe that I think they're playing Annie, and I think there's still tickets available. So it's a great, it's a great family event. I'll be there playing baskets. Who knew? And now, I'd like to invite the lovely Miss Emma Koster, John Glenn High School All-School President, to give us an update.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here on behalf of the Elwood student body to let you know the exciting things that have been going on around the district. Let's jump right in. This month of December is jam-packed with holiday celebrations, winter concerts, basketball games, wrestling matches, and so many other exciting events. Just this week, the middle school hosted their 6th grade winter concert, while the 7th and 8th grade winter concert will be on Monday, December 11th. The middle school has kicked off their new Hour of Code program. During second period on Monday, all students participated in coding and were then also given the opportunities all week long to further engage in coding across disciplines. Just this morning, EMS held a Veterans Celebration. All students attended an assembly where they had the opportunity to meet and learn from veterans and interact and active service men and women. What an excellent way to learn and honor such an incredible group of individuals. The current 8th graders also had the opportunity to visit the high school Monday night with their freshman open house. A great time for this introduction to Glenn as the building is buzzing with energy. Just this afternoon, the high school held their annual Head Start party. Run by the freshman class and attended by volunteers of all grades, this event was a fantastic showing of the kind spirit and dedication to give back instilled in our John Glenn students. This Friday will be the high school music department's Barnes & Noble's performance and fundraiser at East Northport from 4 to 9 p.m. Stop by to enjoy the incredible talent of some of our select music groups, as well as pick up some holiday gifts to help support our music program. Saturday morning from 9 to 12, the high school will be having the PTSA Children's Holiday Party. Complete with crafts, snacks, and even a meeting from Santa, the holiday party is sure to be an exciting morning. You can even drop your holiday gifts to be wrapped by the senior class. Take one thing off your busy schedule this crazy holiday season. On Wednesday, the 13th, the orchestra and chorus will be having their winter concert with band performing the following week on December 19th. All of these groups have worked long and hard to prepare, and we wish them nothing but luck in their performances. Excuse me. There will be another college information night in the high school auditorium at 7 p.m. on December 14th. John Glenn is working hard to provide support and guidance through this stressful and complex process. The halfway mark of the second quarter is rapidly approaching, with progress reports being posted on Portal on December 21st. Glenn is lucky enough to have many incredible students to commend for their achievements. Elizabeth Choi participated in the NYSSMA All-State Symphony Orchestra this past November 30th through December 3rd as a junior violinist, and Alexandra Vallejos represented Elwood on November 27th and 28th in the NAFME All-National Choir. Both of these young ladies are commended for their tremendous talent and hard work. Congratulations are also in order for our orchestra teacher, Ms. Karen Gellert, who conducted at all-county orchestra at SUNY Purchase College. We also honor Girl Scout Troop 3128 as they just received their Silver Award. Avery Brunswick, Kyla Cusack, Catherine Kuroda, Daniela Marchese, and Ariana Sergebali, the community thanks you for your dedication to serving those around you. Lastly, I would like to recognize Chris Balding for making the second team Long Island Championship soccer team. Chris has had a fantastic career as the goalie for the boys varsity soccer team, where he played as a 4-year starter, a 2-year captain, tied Suffolk County record in career shutouts with 37, is the #1 goalie in Glen history, and has enjoyed 51 career wins. We congratulate Chris on the outstanding legacy he is leaving behind. Winter sports are progressing wonderfully. The winter track teams are working hard as they compete individually to improve their personal times. Alice Chiodo is currently #1 in the county in her event, the high jump. Congratulations to her on this impressive accomplishment. The girls basketball team is currently 2-0 in their league, winning their second game this afternoon against Shoreham. The boys basketball team is 1-1 in non-league games, and they will be having their first league game tomorrow. The boys wrestling team is 1-0 in dual meets, as they just defeated Chaminade High School yesterday. The wrestling team will be attending a tournament this Saturday. We wish all of our teams luck in their endeavors this season. With so much to do this time of year, I wish everyone a safe and healthy rest of the month. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Happy holidays, and I hope everyone is able to enjoy friends, family, and maybe even a little bit of rest in the weeks to come.
Thank you as always, Emma, for that thorough report. Dr. Botzer.
I don't like following Emma.
Got to switch that up.
And thank you very much for the report, and I know there's some good news that will surely be heading in your direction over the next few weeks, so good luck to you also, and we thank you so much for representing the student body so well. I just want to give a brief follow-up to the board and community president on the capital bond. I want to, again, on record, publicly thank our community for supporting the proposition that was brought forward by the Board of Education that will greatly address and enhance many of the needs of the school district over the next period of time. The next portion and phase of the bond proposal is patience. As we described throughout the process, it is a lengthy one. While all the repairs are necessary and while all work is a priority, Mrs. Loughlin and I engaged with Mr. McDonald and our architects in a 3-hour meeting Monday to attempt to further prioritize the projects and begin to organize how we will be able to take some of our facilities offline while the work is being completed. Because of the scope of work that it was included in our proposal, most of the large projects will need to take place over summer months. So what we really needed to do was to plot out the next 4 years of projects and the way we'll be able to move from building to building while maintaining our facility availability to our groups during the summer, so that we can continue to offer our summer programs for our special education students, our E&L students, our camp projects through the Booster Club and the Athletic Club. We want to make sure that we're not reducing services to the community while we engage in our construction projects. So we have to very carefully put together a schematic that will be shared with the board soon on what that might look like. One piece that I think is good news and essential is that I think it became clear that roof replacement was the top priority within the bond proposal. And because it is a strict replace what is already existing, we have some flexibility with the state of New York that may, on record, may allow us to, and watching again tomorrow, may allow us to expedite the project as soon as this summer. It makes no sense to begin any of the interior work till the roofs are replaced, and we may be able to secure permission to begin those projects as early as the summer of 18. And we would be able to do it in such a manner where we're doing phases of each building in a schedule that would allow us to do all 4 buildings at the same time to maximize the availability of labor and materials. I will continue with Mrs. Loughlin to report to the board on progress as making that happen, but part of the RFP and proposal schedule is already underway, and we are all systems go on trying to expedite that portion of our project just as quickly as they can, and also identifying other work that could potentially be done parallel to the roof replacement to really get as much done this summer as the state will permit. So So stay tuned, and we hope to be able to bring good news, but we are wasting no time in trying to get the priority items addressed. And that concludes my report, not nearly comprehensive as
Okay, we are up to first residents' remarks. The board encourages all residents to attend its meetings, and this section of the agenda affords them the opportunity to speak. Persons wishing to speak should identify themselves and any organizations they represent at the meeting. Comments should be kept as brief as possible and may not exceed 3 minutes. Public discussions of matters relating to staff, students, or others at which their reputations, privacy, or right to due process could in some way be violated is prohibited. First round of resident remarks. Mrs. Ross.
I'm Heather Ross. Open enrollment's on the agenda tonight, so I just want to address that and also address Elwood's meeting of high academic students' needs. As a parent of 4 kids, I'm very aware that kids have different needs and different abilities, but I'm a big believer in meeting each kid's needs and pushing them to whatever their best is. I have 2 kids currently in the middle school and 1 in 2 open enrollment classes. Her experience is not one that I'm thrilled with. There are numerous children in there who are struggling. Teachers are having to spend extra time on subjects, and it's slowing down the course. And I've spoken to a lot of parents who are having the same experience. A lot of kids are stressed about it because they're ready to go on and they're not getting that experience. At a K through 7 level, I'm also seeing that when my children come home from school and don't really have much work, which I don't think homework is the end-all be-all, and telling me they've done all their homework in their classes. I don't think they should be spending class time doing homework. I think that's an opportunity for those students to do something that's going to push them further. Sorry, I wrote all these notes so I wouldn't forget things. We address struggling readers' needs. We address kids who are struggling with math. We put a lot of emphasis on music and art and sports for those kids, I've heard it said, who don't excel academically. We want them to feel good and we want them to enjoy school. I don't see what we're doing for our high academic achievers. And I would like to see more of that. I think we really need to have an honest conversation about it. I've spoken to administrators and I get a lot of positives, but I don't get any acknowledgement about the negatives that go along with that. And with open enrollment, there's definitely going to be negatives with that. It's not fair to the kids who are struggling in those classes. It's not fair to the teacher who has a group of kids who's ready to go on and a group of kids who needs a lot of extra help. And I think it's time to have some honest communications with the teachers, the parents, and the students, and figure out a way that we can address both the kids who are ready to excel and be pushed, and address the kids who want to challenge themselves. Maybe it's a matter of having a true honors course section where kids are invited to that by qualifying, and then having classes where kids who want to challenge themselves can be in those classes, so that the kids who are ready to be pushed are able to do that. And Agapi's going to talk about another concern I have with what the enrollment is doing to class size. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Ross.
Thank you. Mrs. Bell, concerned parent, mother, and I'm going to apologize for my attire. I was running around today. I did not make notes because I've been thinking this in my head for a long time. I called you today and left a voicemail because my email wasn't working today because I wanted to get some answers from Mrs. Hull beforehand. So I wanted to publicly put on the record 2 concerns that I've brought to the attention of principals and teachers and to the school nurses as well. The class sizes. At Boyd, my child had no less than 27 in 3 through 5. My current child has 25, and they're, which is better. But here, what I've said many times at many meetings, what the school has done to fix the 6th grade, when a couple of years ago, when us who have current 8th graders were complaining like what was going wrong with that grade curriculum-wise, in class structure, that has all been addressed, and I'm very, very pleased with what is happening with 6th grade this year. I'm equally unpleased with what is happening with the accelerated classes in 8th grade this year. 32 to 35 kids in a classroom is not working. For my child, I can speak from a personal perspective, it is difficult when the algebra teacher at Meet the Teacher Night, the first sentence is, okay, there are 32 kids in this section, so it's got, you know, the first sentence, I felt that shouldn't be the first sentence, and that is a problem. It's turning into a problem. So what I've been thinking is that, I know the average is 24 in the district, but when you average classes that have 6 kids and classes that have 35 kids, some art sections have like 35. There's not enough chairs. They keep bringing chairs in from other classrooms. And that's not great for art either. For the teachers, for the students, and I'm not just talking about, you know, earth science and algebra. I'm talking about art is being crowded. Something happened maybe in the transition of staff. Something didn't go right this summer from my perspective. And there are classes with 14 kids and then classes with 32. I'm begging you to fix it for this next year as you start to prepare next year's curriculum. And the issue with the open enrollment and the high class sizes in earth science and algebra is what Mrs. Ross was saying. Maybe there needs to be a striation of those who were selected to do it by from their 7th grade teacher, and they can, something needs to be addressed. This is a problem. Something, I leave it to you professionals with the experience and the knowledge and education to do this. My other quick issue that I would like on public record is I would like to see a no gum chewing policy put in place for our school district. And it's for some children, I've been told they need it for sensory, but for other children, it's distracting, it's upsetting, it's nauseating. I've been told by a principal, well, our rule of thumb is I don't want to see it and I don't want to hear it. But that, and again, with the large class sizes is also where I've been told the gum chewers are, and the teachers are trying to go quickly, and when you have 32 kids in an algebra class, it's hard to stop and say, please spit out your gum. Please stop smacking your gum. He's trying to teach. So if this gum chewing policy that I've been told by teachers' guidance office, I've spoken to a lot of people about this. It's not in print in our handbook. It's in other wellness policies of other schools like Sachem. It's like explicitly written, and I would just ask, I know that it's being redone right now. I've asked the nurses. I know they're looking into rewriting our health and wellness policy. And I would just like to beg you, like seriously, to, it's just adding to the lowering of decorum of chewing gum in classrooms and in the buildings. I just think it's unprofessional. And these children, they can't chew gum at work. If they're going to present, or maybe they could, but I don't want them chewing gum here. And,
Thank you, Mrs. Beck. Thank you. I think Dr. Bossert, are there more resident remarks before we?
Reply to those two if there are.
That's it, okay. So I think we're going to get a reply.
Just
and then,
to both Mrs. Ross and Mrs. Bell, and I know that you're certainly not in isolation in some of the comments that you've shared. We've heard similar concerns from other parents, and I want to assure both of you and everyone else present that open enrollment is absolutely an ongoing dialogue within the district. We recognize the values of the program, and we recognize the challenges that come from it. We look at them as opportunities, and there are some things that do need to be addressed. We are having a lot of good internal dialogue. We are going directly to our instructional leaders, our teachers, to talk about ways to address some of the challenges that they are facing. We want to make sure we're providing the best opportunities for our students, and there are some concerns within the program as it's currently designed. So I think that I can tell you with full confidence that those conversations are taking place. There are some modifications to the program that have been recommended that I will support moving forward. And I think that if we're able to do it effectively, it'll address some of the concerns that you brought forward. I'm not sure at all. I think that there is some paradigm shift with having an open enrollment program that causes people to have to, look at some things philosophically differently. but no one wants to see children struggle. And sometimes we have found situations where children have been misplaced in classrooms and now they don't have an alternative. One of the challenges of a small high school like John Glenn is that, just for instance, if we're running an AP class, a science class, and the student is having a difficult time, and we decide after 10 weeks that this just wasn't the right placement, in order for that student, hypothetically, to move to the Regents level of that same section, it may cause the entire schedule to need to be rewritten. That's one of the challenges we have with the very diverse offerings that we do have at John Glenn, whereas in a much larger building like Ward Melville High School, there are clearly going to be Regents level sections running at the same time as AP, so the student enrollment can be more fluid. So we need to look at some of those challenges and how we will face them here. I think that sometimes when you talk about things hypothetically and theoretically on paper, you don't anticipate all of the challenges that actually come about when you implement something in practice. Now that we have done that, and we have years of now practice to evaluate, and part of tonight's presentation is looking at some of our results, some of our data points from the open enrollment program, it gives us a better focus on what we need to address. So I assure you that those conversations are taking place, and there will absolutely be opportunity for parent input, from parent feedback in the appropriate forums that we do create at curriculum conversations and curriculum committee meetings, as well as future meetings of the Board of Education. And I think that the program is evolving, and I think that what you see next year will likely be different than this year, and that may continue for some time. Mrs. Bell, specifically to your point about class size, when we do class size averages, we don't do it on a district-wide basis and lump the arts in with sciences and special education sections in with honors sections. We look at comparing sections of 7th grade English and all classes. And our class size averages are still very attractive. That said, we have some sections that do go over 30. You are fortunate that your daughter's in all of them. But what I can tell you is that we've taken a very good look at the master schedule for this building, and I am feeling very positive that there can be some changes made in the way we create the master schedule that will alleviate those concerns moving forward. It is not good that we have a section of 32 and a section of 17 of the same class. I completely agree with you. It should not have occurred, but it did. And at this point in the school year, we can't make that change without being very disruptive to the students and the teachers. So we will do our best to support our students in the large sections and know that moving forward, there are some organizational changes that need to be made to ensure it doesn't happen again. One point on gum chewing. I want you to do some research on the topic of gum chewing.
Okay.
You will find some clinical studies that indicate that it stimulates brain activity, contributes to focus, and I once worked.
And it's good for your teeth.
And I once worked in a very high, Mrs. Bell, I once was employed by a very high-performing district that distributed peppermint gum to students before state assessments and Regents exams.
And can you tell her why specifically peppermint?
Yeah, it was in the study. That was
Because peppermint actually stimulates focus.
There you go. Thank you.
And you got a room of 35 kids who spell decent compared to the hormonal body odor and bad breath.
So, Mrs. Bell, I will tell you this. I would agree, and you raise a concern, I'm giving you a response. That if it's becoming a distraction, and there are noises and snapping and things like that, the teacher should direct the students supposed to come. Prohibiting gum chewing from the building, I'm not sure if we're prepared to take that action, but making sure that gum chewing does not become a distraction in the classroom, we're all on the same page.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Julia, can I just make a comment? Am I not on? Can I make a comment just about today? Heather and I attended the EMS, the veterans presentation, and this is directed to you, Mrs. Ross. Your daughter Bella was, I guess, the master of ceremonies, and she did a remarkable job. It is very difficult to get up in front of
a bunch of students and peers and speak, and she was very eloquent with it. I was proud of her. I'm not a parent, and I don't know if you were present, but I hope you were very proud of her.
Thank you.
I saw you seated in the back glowing, and she did a wonderful job, as did all of our students, and I will publicly thank Mr. Schwartz, who coordinated a wonderful program honoring our current servicemen and our veterans on this December 7th occasion. And it's a remarkable program for students, and I understand he's been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years, and I hope we do it for the next 40. It was terrific.
And I just wanted to make I don't know if anyone else has any resident remarks. Come on up. Oh, it's all right. No, you gotta hear it.
It's for YouTube. You'll be trending by morning.
My name's Nikki Crowley, and I just wanted, I'm sure you've already done this, but I would be curious, and maybe that's part of the presentation, to see what has occurred in the middle school with the open enrollment and how the teachers feel. And I hope that you speak to, and I'm sure you will be, speaking to the teachers about their experience and what they're seeing in the classroom. And I'm wondering if it's sometimes a grade by grade situation, because I know that with this year's current 9th grade, it seemed to be a totally different experience. I don't think that there were a lot of kids, from what I understood in our meetings and the feedback, that were struggling or that shouldn't have been there. And I actually remember when those letters went out to parents, that there were a lot of parents who kids were recommended to go into the honors classes that were hesitant about it. They were afraid it was going to be too much work. And I found that the kids really knew whether or not they should be there. Like, there were a lot of kids who didn't want to be there, and I just would be curious to know if there are parents who are pushing their kids there. And I felt like the teachers really knew who should be in those classrooms and who shouldn't, and did a great job recommending that. So I just hope that we ask the teachers first and find out, what their recommendation is.
May I read? I hope I am not going to upset any of my leadership team members by sharing this, but we've had some good conversations, Mrs. Crowley, about that concern. To answer your question, we absolutely speak to teachers and our practitioners to get their input and feedback. Some of them are here today that have shared their thoughts and opinions. We do have situations where sometimes students are parentally driven to take classes that perhaps may not match their readiness level. That does occur. And one of the things that we're exploring is ways to better inform parents to make decisions that match their students' abilities and desires. One of the things that I became aware of just recently is that teachers at our high school, and as well as the middle school, make scheduling recommendations to the students each year. I'm not sure the parents see those. One of the things that we have discussed openly is making sure that the teacher recommendation is known to both student and parent before a definitive decision is made about how to schedule the child. And for me, that's not revolutionary thinking. That's best practice. And it was surprising to me to learn that it wasn't our standard practice. So we are exploring ways now to make sure that before final decisions are made within the guidance office and the scheduling program, that teacher input is given very careful consideration. Sorry, Ms. Brzezinski, if I blew up your spot.
So I think it's timely that we have this presentation on the AP program enhancements and student achievement, and it really goes along with our board goal number 1 of servicing all students' needs. And just so the community knows, we also on the board had a board retreat that discussed some of these issues. Really servicing all our children that are struggling in some of these classes, but also overachieving children, and what are we doing for each one of those groups. And I do think that Dr. Bossert and his team are going to come to the table with some recommendations this year that I think will be encouraging. So this is not something that we haven't discussed as a board as well. But I think Mrs. Hull would do. Oh, anybody else for resident remarks? Okay, let's move on to the presentation part. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Foster. This evening, I'm joined by Mrs. Brzezinski, our high school principal, Mrs. Kelly Gorman, Director of Math Science Technology. Mrs. Pam Fine was also part of our preparations and was unable to attend tonight due to a family commitment. We've also invited the faculty of our AP Capstone program, Mr. Chesnoff, Mr. Greening, very appreciative of their being here this evening so that they can share with you directly from the classroom how our program is advancing. This evening, we're reviewing the results of the Advanced Placement Program and some graduation data to help assess the effectiveness of our College Board initiatives and our high school instructional program. And we are also sharing information on our progress with the initiative for the AP Capstone. The curriculum administrators and the high school administrators meet on a regular basis. We actually have scheduled a weekly meeting throughout the entire year because there are so many facets to the high school program. And we also were working together to develop a presentation this evening in thinking about the specific information we wanted to include to help highlight the progress of our programs. Our board goals are directly related to this presentation this evening. I think board goal number 1 really speaks to the multifaceted aspects of student achievement, and it provides an excellent lens for assessing our advanced placement program because it really does focus on multiple measures. And sometimes that conversation can be solely about achievement, but it can also be about participation, and it can very much be about access to those programs. The second part of the evening's conversation will focus on board goal number 3, as we really look closely at our progress with AP Seminar and our intentions for next year's launch of AP Research. I would like to ask Mrs. Brzezinski to take us through the slides that present data on student achievement.
Thank you, Mrs. Hull. Good evening again. I am incredibly proud to share with you this evening the success of our students at John Glenn High School as they have achieved in the AP program. I firmly believe that the data points that my colleagues and I will highlight for you this evening reflect the successes of the open enrollment philosophy adopted by the Elwood School District, and do recognize that there are some challenges to it, but by and large, I think you'll see from tonight's presentation just the tremendous benefits that our students are experiencing. My colleagues and I strongly value the benefits of encouraging more students to experience the rigor of the AP curriculum coursework as a means to better prepare our students for success at the college level. We know that the research indicates that student success in an AP program is a strong predictor for success and retention during their college years. As the numbers indicate, we continue to experience significant positive results as we have expanded student access and participation in the advanced placement classes. So some points of emphasis to note this evening. So in the first row, since open enrollment has been adopted, the number of students enrolled in John Glenn High School has declined from 848 to 746. And as seen in row 2, the actual number of students enrolled in AP courses has steadily increased, growing 64% over the past 5 years, so from 168 to 275. At the same time, the number of students earning a 3 or higher on the advanced placement exams has also increased by 55%. This is indicated in the row in blue, so 148 to 230 students reflects a 55% increase. Additionally, as you can see, the percentage of the total students earning scores of 3 or above is consistent with last year's performance. We discussed at our last presentation that while there was a slight dip, the number of students that were taking these courses increased markedly. So needless to say, we really are proud of our students and the hard work that they're putting forward in the AP classes. And certainly our teachers have worked hard to get them there, no doubt. Next slide. This slide shows that again, 84% of our students earned a 3 or higher, but this is a more in-depth look at how that breaks out in terms of the percentage of exams where those students have earned a level 3, a level 4, and a level 5. And as you can see, that has also remained relatively consistent. In our next slide, it's important to note that the College Board reports data on the percentage of students earning scores of 3 or higher at the school, state, and global level. In reviewing the 5-year school summary report, the data indicates that our students have outperformed the state and all students who took the AP exams globally. And here's another measure of achievement, the number of students receiving AP Scholars designation from the College Board. Again, while our enrollment has decreased and our number of students enrolled in AP courses has increased, we have continued to maintain the designation of AP Scholar, and the data demonstrates an increase in the overall number of scholars. So as a result, we have once again been commended by the College Board and have earned the status on the 7th Annual College Board Honor Roll for simultaneously achieving increases in access to the advanced placement courses for a broader number of students while maintaining or improving the rate at which their AP students earn scores of 3 or higher on the AP exams. So again, we are super proud of what our students are doing at the high school and really thank our faculty, 2 of whom are here this evening, for the tremendous amount of work that they put forward to ensure that the growing number of students are experiencing such great success as identified. So I now would like to welcome back my colleague, Mrs. Hall, who will discuss what's next for the AP program at the high school. Thank you, Mrs. Hall.
Part of building the open enrollment philosophy is expanding the courses that we offer to students. In designing the courses that will be selected to be offered, we strive to offer a variety of disciplines so that we can meet student interest and need. Each year for the last 4 years, we have brought online additional courses, and for this coming year, we are looking at AP researchers who will speak to in the next few minutes. But we also wanted to share with you that another thing that we're looking at is revising the AP World model. And this conversation really has occurred outside of open enrollment because many school districts have been looking at the AP World curriculum. AP World is one of the APs that covers a full year of college, 2 semesters of college, in 2 semesters of high school. Some of the APs take a 1-semester college course and explore that content over 2 semesters. So we know right from the beginning that it's a very dense course with a lot of content. It's also very often the first AP that a student takes. So it's an introduction to that college level work. There's also a tremendous amount of skill building, particularly in the areas of writing and analysis. So we find that it is takes a great deal to compact that into a single year. And then remember that New York State schools start later than some of the schools in the southern states. So we're taking the AP exam in May, and we have less instructional time than some students in other states. So together, that has encouraged schools to look at, can we offer this as a 2-year model? We've done a survey, Mrs. Fine conducted a survey of local school districts in Suffolk and Nassau. We had maybe about 14 responses. We also contacted our immediately geographically surrounding districts to ensure we had information on their programs, and the majority of them use a 2-year model. The first year is often referred to as either pre-AP or AP Introduction to AP World. It's not the AP year as far as College Board is concerned. That's year 2. However, it is the beginning of the introduction. For us to do this with fidelity, we really want to have your approval to explore this and plan more in-depthly. And this conversation really begins at the 8th grade level, because that is the precursor to prepare students to take on college level work as 9th graders. It also looks at the instructional materials. For example, we know that many school districts begin with their 9H text, and then they transition to their college level text, just because their reading level is more sophisticated. So we know there are many things that we would want to do in this conversation. It includes having staff, because we already run, for example, this year 3 sections of AP World. So if we were to have a pre-AP, it would require training of staff, and it would require bringing on an additional staff member from the Social Studies Department. So there's a lot of steps that would be involved, and to do this with fidelity and ensure that it would be successful for our students, we want to engage in that conversation and be ready for the fall of 2019. And that includes looking at really value-based questions such as, can you only join as a 9th grader? Can you come in as a 10th grader if you missed the year of 9th grade instruction that was so skill-specific? So many things to explore and discuss. The next thing that I would like to do is talk to you a little bit about, in answer to some questions we received, how do students earn college credit for AP classes? So how does an AP class benefit a student in terms of applying to college and being successful in college? We know from research that that exposure does demonstrate a certain level of persistence for students, that they are more likely to be successful in their college level classes. But what does it do at the point of entry? And the answer to that question really varies with the different college admissions officers that you speak to. We have called some college officers, we have listened to them present here in Elwood, and we will once again be canvassing at different levels, different tiers of colleges to hear their impressions. The one thing that everyone agrees with is that taking on that work demonstrates readiness for college level work. The part that we see a little bit of variety in responses is what kind of success level are they looking for in that class. Some college counselors say that if you are not achieving an 85 or higher, you're not mastering the content, and perhaps that was not the right placement for you. Other college officers say that it's a demonstration of your willingness to engage in hard work and challenge yourself. So that perception also matters. So one thing that we can do is make sure that all of our students are aware that they can find out if the course they take is going to result in them earning college credit, because that's the second tier of this. The first one is to help you get into the door of the college if you're choosing. The second part is, will you receive college credit? And again, that is dependent for each college. They make a decision. However, there's very specific information available. If you click on the AP credit policy search, it brings you to a website where you can actually just put in the name of the college that you're interested in and see the exact information for each exam. This is an example of Syracuse University, and we can see here that for art history they're accepting a 3, for biology they're accepting a 4, for calculus they're accepting a 3, if to grant you credit for this course, or 4 for these courses. And there's a very long list of all of the APs. The College Board does caution that the best way to verify this is with the college directly. But this does provide great insight to help see if it does grant that credit. But again, it's complex because it's not always about granting credit. It's been shared with me, for example, that an Ivy League school will very much want you to take the specific course at their college related to your major. So even if you have achieved a very high score, they're looking for you to have the instruction from their professors. But maybe they'll grant you elective credit. So it's a more complex answer that's hard to say, here is exactly how it is. The best thing is to contact the college and to find out from their admissions officer how that works. The other thing is, we do not report AP scores on transcripts. So that is up to the student if they're sending the AP scores. Some colleges request them, they do not all request them. So sometimes they're seeing that you took the course, they're seeing your grade in the course, but they're not finding out your AP score. And for the students who challenge themselves in senior year and have that very desirable transcript, those AP scores will not even be available until the summertime when the child's already been accepted to college. And so it's certainly a complex thing, but the one thing we hear across the board is it signals to colleges your willingness to challenge yourself and engage in higher level coursework. The next thing is, we originally had envisioned doing a deep look at our Regents data, but the Regents data is reported back out to the public through the school report card, and that's on a delay that comes out each April. So to look really deep at Regents data, we're looking either just at June and then comparing it to the state report card, which is August, January, and June. So to look really specifically, as we did with AP, a lot of that data becomes more available in the spring. However, the data that we do have available to us really speaks to the type of Regents diplomas that students achieve, which of course are described here. And what we can see is this really echoes what our program's achievements and sustaining of achievement that we saw with our AP figures, because our Regents diplomas have, while it looks like we've decreased here, what we really have is gained in the number of students earning advanced Regents and the number of students earning advanced Regents with honors, which is the area where we would like to see that increase. So the next part of the program is about AP Capstone. So when we look at the AP seminar class, last year we came to speak with you, we talked about what we were envisioning, and now we have it up and running. Just a few things that I would like to mention. We're currently running 3 sections. It's predominantly 10th graders. There are just a few 11th and 12th graders who are taking the class. When you take it in 10th grade, it's in lieu of English 10 honors. In 11th and 12th grade, it's an elective. The class is currently taught by our humanities teacher, Mr. Chesnoff, with additional support from the STEM teacher, Mr. Green. We also wanted to show you that we have worked with the environment at the recommendation of our teachers after attending training about the type of environment that supports the collaborative nature of seminar. And that's why you will see here that we have the tables. All of the students have Chromebooks, even though right now the high school is at the 9th grade level with the Chromebooks. But I think to really describe seminar, it's much better to hear from the teachers themselves. So I would like to invite you, please, Mr. Chesnoff, if you can lead us off, and both of you, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. So when asked to speak here, I had asked, what exactly do you want us to speak about? And there were 2 questions that we were told to answer, and one being, so what makes this course stand out from others? And I want to open up really about philosophy of teaching versus reality. Ever since I got my master's degree, I have been told by not only my teachers when I was getting my degree, but also administrators that, hey, we want to see student-centered learning and we want to see student choice integrated into our teaching. And oftentimes, to varying degrees, that conflicts with the reality of the expectations of school. We have a content that we need to get through, a curriculum. There are state expectations, state exams, which our students do very well on. And there's a lot of fear in embracing this philosophy. Could we get through the curriculum in time? Are the students going to know everything that they need to know for these tests, which do matter? This class allows the philosophy and the reality to coexist perfectly. There isn't even a choice. Mr. Greening and I, we don't stand up in front of the class and we don't lecture. We may give a 15-minute mini lesson, rarely. But most of the time, it's talking about the goals for the day, and then the students are off and they're running, and we actually act as facilitators. So it is student-centered completely. Collaborative learning is the name of the game in that course. It's part of the assessment. They not only have to create a project, but they're accountable to be able to answer questions in ways in which they did it as a group, and how one member helped another member successfully put together this presentation. In addition to that, student choice is a big part. Starting January, and this is something that's different, I don't think any other AP exam, to my knowledge at least, starts in January. This one does. And these kids are doing their first project, and we're giving them complete choice in what they want to research. They have to find a real world issue and research that issue, come up with a bunch of different solutions to that issue, but they get to choose it, which in my opinion is fantastic, because the idea behind that is not only is it theirs, they own their learning, but they're invested in it too. So hopefully we get to see that actually happen. And I'll give it to Mr. Green.
So just to add on that, one of the things that I think is great about the AP Capstone course is it addresses many of Mrs. Ross's concerns. Right. As we deal with this open enrollment issue and we have students that are at different skill levels, AP Capstone is a skill-based course. So where you have course content in other classes that might distract the teacher from being able to slow down and address the needed issues of all the students, in Capstone we have that ability to get around to the different students and really push the higher achieving learners forward beyond where they are, and at the same time also propel the lower achieving students to greater success as well. So it's because of that skill-based aspect, it kind of lends itself to doing a better job with all the students at the same time.
So another way in which this course stands out from others, I think, is the level of responsibility and self-sufficiency that is required in order to succeed. We don't answer questions, we ask questions back, which could frustrate students. But when a student asks us, I don't understand what this research is telling me, our question is, well, what specific question do you have about that research? And they have to frame the question. We're not giving them the content, so we can't pick up their 13-page report and read it to them and then say, yes, this is what it means. And instead, we have to equip them with the ability to identify what they do not know and then seek out answers. So they have to be independent and self-sufficient, which is actually leading me to answer the second question that we were told to respond to, which is how will it help students in the future? And it's in that way that we were talking about in a meeting, how will this help at the college level? And I thought about it that, hey, kids at the in an underground program will meet twice a week for an hour and 50 minutes each class. There's a bunch of time in between those classes where it's up to the students to do the learning, right? They don't have access to their professors like they have access to teachers in high school. So they need to ask the right questions and they need to find their own answers in order to really excel in the program. So I think we're giving them that experience in high school to realize what they need to do later on in order to be self-dependent, really. In addition to that, I'm sorry. So in addition to that, I was pulling out this article, and this is something I found in 2016, and it was in the New York Times Magazine, and it's titled, "What Google Learned from Its Quest to Build the Perfect Team." And when I saw that title, I said, I'm going to use this for my seniors who have senioritis. I'm going to make the perfect group, and they will be awesome. And I pulled it out because it applies to this situation in AP seminars, since they do work in groups, at least for the beginning of the year and the first half that they'll start in January. And as I was reading the article, I came across this study that's mentioned in it, and I just want to read it to you guys just to give you insight into what the future holds for our students. A study in the Harvard Business Review found that the time spent by managers and employees in collaborative activities has ballooned by 50% or more over the last 2 decades, and that at many companies, more than 3/4 of an employee's day is spent communicating with colleagues. We live in this kind of world where social networking, collaboration in order to produce the best product, it exists, and this is what companies want in their employees, and this is what colleges want in their students. AP, the College Board, responded to the college's request whoever they survey, that they want to see kids being able to collaborate in an honest, true way, not where one kid carries the whole project, which happened back in my day, but in a true, honest way where everyone's contributing, all right? And it's significant. So to talk about the future, I think it helps. I think it will give them at least that experience to learn how to work with each other. So I hope I answered your questions, Mr. Freeman.
Just to build on that a little further, many of us have our first experience with that rigor when we get to college. And for a lot of these students, it's nice for them to struggle through, especially at this level, before they get to the actual exams, to see that they're not really set up, they don't really understand what it takes to really work successfully in a group and to do meaningful research. So it allows them to struggle and fight against their natural proclivity for a little bit of laziness and sometimes memorization, right? So I think that it's beneficial in giving them the skills again. You know, the skills-based aspect is the most important facet of the class. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Hall, if I could just offer my thanks, gentlemen, for your insights. You just demonstrated why it is so essential that we work directly with our practitioners and our instructors when we evaluate programs, when we talk about what our needs are and what our future goals should be, because the type of insight you were just able to provide into this new program is what will help us to set the course for our future. So we thank you for taking your opportunity to do so, and look forward to continue working together. To speak to some of the concerns that were raised tonight, I want to assure the board that the focus of the administration is tapping into the expertise of our practitioners when we plan and we make recommendations moving forward. We have the opportunity to pop into the classroom for observations and gain as much insight as you can, but it pales in comparison to those who are doing the work and with the students every day. So this is what we do to really get to know what's happening in the classroom. So thank you both.
And, you know, if I may add, just again, thanking both of these fine gentlemen for taking time away from their families to be here. I know from the moment that I walked into their classroom, I was super excited to see what the kids were doing, students were doing in there. And last year in the planning stages, when we were trying to figure out what this course was going to be like, because a lot of it was in theory and many districts on Long Island were just trying it out for the first time. Once we heard about the course, our next phase was to figure out who would we want teaching that course. And we met quite extensively, and it really came out as a no-brainer to us that Mr. Chestnut and Mr. Greening would make a fantastic pair in the inaugural year. And I just have to say it in public, they are doing a tremendous job, and I just wanted to thank them very much.
Thank you both. It started really with the summer taking coursework in Maryland. They came back to do curriculum writing here at the district with Mrs. Kelly Gorman, Mrs. Fine, who also attended the training, as did Mrs. Pellicker. They also then have been working diligently each week in preparing, and the skills that they teach are so specific, such as exploring the line of reasoning. There's a tremendous amount that goes into the success that they describe, and it's very exciting. And again, I also echo in thanking you. And so now we have to talk about what are our next steps in alignment with our board goal and looking at research. And so Mrs. Kelly Gorman is going to take us through these last slides.
Good evening. Thank you again for having me back again this month. This month that I was here. Thank you again to Mr. Chestnut and Mr. Green for joining us tonight and sharing the experiences that they've had over the course of this year. You can hear their excitement when they speak about the course, and you see that same excitement when you visit the Capstone classroom or when you meet to plan things like this. So, as you've heard, the class is proving to be exciting and challenging, as it's very different from many of the other courses that we currently were offering at Johnson. Last year, we presented about the AP Capstone Diploma Program as we were beginning to discuss the implementation of seminar for this year. We wanted to take a moment this evening to review the options for students who enroll in the Capstone courses. So, those students who simply want the experience of taking the seminar course, that the gentleman explains, can do that, and they can enroll in that course just independently of anything else, and that's that bottom tier there. However, for our students who enjoyed their experience in seminar and are looking to challenge themselves a little bit further, they can enroll in the AP Research course. It's important to note that unlike other AP courses, they do have to take seminar in order to take research. That is a requirement of the College Board, and it is something that is a little bit different than any of the other courses. Those students, a student who takes both seminar and research, who scores at least a 3 in both courses, will receive an AP Capstone certificate, which is that center tier. Many of our students who are enrolled in the seminar class currently also take several other AP exams while they are at John Glenn High School. We all know this. So for those students, if they take the AP seminar and AP research course and an additional 4 courses, AP courses, they score 3 or higher on their exams, they will achieve that top tier, which is the AP Capstone diploma designation. As we discussed, looking forward and looking ahead to the 2018-19 school year, our students who took the AP seminar class this year will be invited to enroll in AP Research beginning in September. It's important to note, and I already said this, but that they have to take seminar in order to enroll in research, so those students will be in 11th or maybe a couple 12th grade students, but majority 11th. AP seminar, there's a focus on collaboration and team learning. Students learn how to explore topics from multiple perspectives in the course. In contrast, the research course is primarily an independently based course. Students design, plan, and conduct a year-long research-based investigation to address a research question of personal interest. And the gentleman spoke to how seminar kind of begins to transition the second half of the year where they start to pick their own topic. They are working more independently than the beginning half of the year. Research builds again on that, and they are working independently on something of interest to them. The research course allows students to apply and expand upon research, writing, and communication skills developed in seminar. The combined experiences in both courses equip our students with 21st century skills they will need to meet success in both college and their future careers. We look forward to the exceptional work of our students that they will undoubtedly create in the Capstone program next year. I'm going to turn this back to Mrs. Hall.
Thank you. So I thank everyone for this presentation and their questions.
Any questions from the board about the entire presentation?
I have a question. I'm going to start with what we just ended with, and then maybe we'll go backwards. But with the AP seminar that we're currently doing, I love that it's individualized, like the 2 teachers spoke about. You can push different people at different levels, and seems to be functioning very well in that regard. Are we capping the capstone? Because I would think part of the benefit to that would be a small class section to where they can really interact individually with individual needs and really propel it in a great direction. And I'm wondering, maybe in our first year, we do, I don't know the class sizes, so I want to know that. And then I'm wondering if we're anticipating a greater enrollment as the years progress, since this was the first year, and how we're going to keep that individualized.
So when our team came back from training and they had a more in-depth understanding of what the course would look like, it was evident that being mindful of class size was going to be important. And that's why initially we thought 1 or 2 classes. We have 3 sections, and it is for that reason. Would you like the specific estimate numbers?
We have 1 class of 11 students, 1 with 15, and 1 with 20.
It's like fantastic. It's a dream. So,
Okay, so going forward,
Yeah,
what are we
going forward.
expecting? So this January, there's going to be a meeting for school districts who are participating in Capstone, and it's really self-generated by school districts to come together to brainstorm. And one of the things they're talking about is what it looks like in longevity for the districts that are slightly ahead of us. One of the things that districts have been telling us just through our email communications, because the meeting's coming up in January, is that some students are concerned about their junior year and and the course load that they have junior year. So even though they might take seminar in 10th grade, they're holding off for research for 12th grade. So that's one of the things we're wondering, is that something that some of our students are going to want to do? We know that Capstone can be used in lieu of English in 10th grade and 12th grade. Very big hesitation to do that in 11th grade because you really need to be addressing the demands of the Common Core ELA Regents exam. So we are anticipating there'll be some students signing up in 11th grade as an elective, and then some will wait till 12th grade for research. Part of what Dr. Bosser alluded to earlier is what we're looking at in terms of the opportunities and things we want to address. And how we communicate with students about expectations of AP courses and what they're like is one of the things we're going to be addressing. So we hope that that communication to students will interest more students in taking the course.
You just mentioned something that, thank you. And I just wanted to jump on board. So AP seminar, can that be an elective and as a replacement for 12th grade English?
We are currently discussing that. We are certain that it can be an elective that we have already put in place for this year. So we're hoping that some seniors who did not get to take the class this year will elect to take it next year as an elective. The question of using it in lieu of,
right?
Yeah, I'm juniors, yes, into their senior year. The question of using it for English is one that our administrative team is discussing. We will need feedback from our teachers, as well as we did a crosswalk between English 10 and seminar this year to be ensure that we were going to be touching on the essential learning skills. So it's something we are examining.
Okay. And just one comment, having two kids in college and getting feedback from them, that this class, and like you had said, it was developed because business came toward the college board and said, this is what we're looking for in the future of our employees. The same thing with colleges also. They're looking to this, what they call a reality-based model learning. And I think as in seniors, if I had to give my preference as a parent, I would want my senior to take this solely for nothing else in preparation of the skills that would be essential for success in college. So I just put my 2 cents.
Mrs. Marcus, did you have other questions about the presentation?
I do. I just have, I don't know where to start with it, multiple things, but one thing is that I appreciate the slide of, the AP test score and that you gave Syracuse University just to show what test score you need for what credits, because that's a big part of it. If we're signing up for the class, a lot of parents pay for the exam in hopes that their child gets out of paying for some college credits, right? My concern, well, I see that the 3, 4, 5 lumping together it hasn't changed percentage-wise, so that's wonderful. But I would be curious to know what the percentages of like 5s have been from 2013, 2014, and 15, not just 16 and 17. So,
yes, we can provide that data. As you know, this was in response to, I added that slide in response to a question. So the first 2 that I accessed were that, and now I know exactly where the only ones are also. So I can certainly provide that in an update.
Because I share the concern, and I don't think this is a surprise to anybody in the audience or the panel, but I share the concern that while I totally like and agree with the idea that a child shouldn't necessarily be tracked a certain way. If you want to try a subject and you want to try to challenge yourself, I think that's wonderful. So I like that we have that opportunity. My concern with it, as been voiced by some parents, is that I would hate to see that the students that could be earning 5s for some reason are no longer, I don't even know what to say, but that they're not earning it, that has dropped, that the 4s have dropped, rather than just seeing a 3, 4, 5 collective. I'd like to see it individualized, because that does matter. If suddenly we had students getting 4s and 5s and now they're getting 3s, I think that is data that would represent something that needs to be investigated. So I would just like that to be clear.
Okay.
It's like what Dr. Rosser said, it's a paradigm shift, and it's one thing that is clear that I want to make clear when I ask my questions is that you're always so thorough, Mrs. Hall, and you're always so concerned with every student. So I kind of implicitly trust this, but I just want to see the numbers a little bit more.
Mrs. Weiss, do you have any questions?
I think one of the other questions, I don't know if you hit on it or not, but when we're looking at AP courses, because as you said, the colleges, the seniors, they're not getting the scores until after their college process is done. And the old philosophy was that it was like tiered up. You came into 9th grade, you took a Regents, 10th grade was in honors, 11th grade you started to take your APs. And so I'm curious as to know if we can do that paradigm shift going down, offering more AP courses at the underclass grade, the lower grades. And if we've reached out to colleges, such as with this, AP Capstone, and really looked at what are those courses that are really more widely accepted, more desirable by colleges that would really help our students.
Do you mean ninth graders? Are you speaking?
I'm speaking in general, because a lot of times with these AP classes, the kids don't feel that they're ready for them, because there's some sort of prerequisite that's required with it. So, take a class like, I don't know, AP statistics, you need to have some sort of foundation of math prior to it before you can take it. Other schools may have an AP statistics regular class, I don't want to say regular, but non-AP, and then therefore, maybe that's offered in 9th grade, and then a student can then take it therefore in 10th grade as opposed to 11th and 12th grade. It's just an example, I may not have all my facts straight in that.
We are definitely discussing that. What are the prerequisites that students should have? Some APs require more than others, and for example, that's why we're looking at a year of planning to bring AP World down to 9th grade, because it very much involves the 8th grade program, and then by its very nature, the 6th and 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at what are the prerequisite skills, and AP actually offers a lot of guidance on this. They have a whole pre-AP sequence planning that you can do to bring that level of rigor and that type of thinking, because that's really about the skills and the type of thinking, into courses that occur before AP.
Okay, and that planning is really for educators, not so much for parents.
Right, that's for educators, and it's discussions that we have, and in getting ready to present to students about what they need to know about AP, those are some of the things we're talking about right now.
On the topic of the AP World, it's not up on that slide, but I think, as a parent who's had kids, my children have gone through that, they're history buffs, I think it's a great idea. I think it introduces them earlier and brings them into that process, because a lot of times I have one child who was afraid to take the AP class because of the amount of reading, and he felt that he wasn't up to par with it. So I think elongating it over 2 years might be a great option for them.
Ms. Manuel?
Really, one of my questions was in alignment with Mrs. Marcus regarding, pulling out the 4s and 5s and having a comparison where we were and where we are, to see really how effective it was. So I look forward to that data. And as far as the communication for the recommendations for the high school kids, I know we get a course selection. My daughter did bring it home to me, and we really did go through it and so on. How do we plan on addressing that? So going forward, the children will really have the dialogue with the parent and the guidance counselor and wind up where they should be.
May I? Mrs. Krasinski and I recently were investigating that very topic, and one of the things that we're exploring is a way to incorporate the teacher recommendation directly onto the parent portal.
Can I make one more point on that? I think what you said about how you were canvassing colleges and seeing how they view AP course enrollment was really helpful. Like I wrote down, so it's for my own kids in 100 years when they get there. College officers, 85% or above, or else you don't take the class for some colleges. For some. I I think notes like that, as for me as a parent who I might have a child that does all APs, some APs, who will be making decisions like that. That is something that you will know and I will not know. Now I know. But if that can be somewhere publicized, I think that would be very helpful in the process to have a real honest conversation with parents and parents with their students to evaluate truly the best. Some, in my mind, which would be ignorant with elementary kids, part of me would say, if you have a smart kid, you just do all of these. But it may not, pan out that way. So any little nugget that can be very helpful for parents, let's get it out there.
And I think we've seen additional offerings in the evening for families to learn about that college process because it is so complex, because it really does rely on multiple factors about a student's profile. So I think the communication out and our counselors, did you want to speak to that, Mrs. Brzezinski?
Just briefly, we are making progress in that area. I do think the teacher recommendation is really critical to the process, as is the discussion that our students have with the guidance counselors. And so the more information that we can include in the course guide, we're currently revising it, looking to put a page or two to describe open enrollment, to describe what AP courses are, to describe, you might be somebody that Mr. Chestnut would recommend you go into the next level of AP, say AP language in 11th grade, and you might be a student that can be successful there, but you may not be as equally successful if you're taking 3 other AP courses at the same time. So while and we talked about the teachers getting up in front of their classes, talking to the students, saying, using 10R in English as an example. Okay, boys and girls, you're in 10R. Next year, here are your choices, 11R, 11H, 11AP. This is what we believe to be a predictor of success. Like if you're here, you probably should go here, and I'm going to recommend that. If you're here, I'm going to recommend that you go here. And if you're here, I'm going to recommend that you go here, right? Just a general conceptual idea. If you're on the cusp and you are considering challenging yourself, come and have a conversation with me as the professional so I can guide you accordingly. That information will also give to the guidance counselors so that when the guidance counselors meet with the students, they can see the whole collective picture. Our counselors this year are moving in a direction where they're going to start having one-to-one counseling sessions with every student. So that's also going to help the process.
It also speaks to a part of open enrollment is a question about access and equity, because it's also about are parents available to come to parent evenings? Are parents aware of Naviance? How many students have the parents sitting with them to go through the application process? Or to go through the course selection process. So we want to be very multifaceted and in adhering to our board goal in really looking at all the different aspects so that we can address the needs of the high achieving student and the needs of all students, and particularly having that access. And I think that's why we see that 64% increase in the number of students participating who perhaps may not have been able to do that before or didn't even know they could.
So I'm going to speak from the student's perspective. You're probably like, I'm not a student, but I wasn't a student too long ago, and I didn't take any APs. I didn't challenge myself probably as much as I should have. I was a mediocre student, could have done better. For instance, if I knew I could have taken AP Government, something I would have had an interest in, I would have pursued it. You would have caught me in physics, AP Cat, whatever, any science, that's just not my forte. But I think about the open enrollment, and I think, but what if I wanted to challenge myself and go into AP Physics? Would I have been a student that hindered the ability of the high achieving student and lessen their learning experience? So I think my big takeaway from this is it's great to open the opportunity, and I think we're going to touch upon that when we have the one-on-one with the students and say, listen, here's where you are. This is an opportunity for you to pair up what they could possibly benefit from. But I would like to know, maybe from the student's perspective, who were in these classes, did the students who were maybe at the bottom really hinder their learning ability? Did it help them? Maybe because I know when I was in college, if I wasn't the best student, maybe somebody who was came down to my level, taught the context to me, brought me back up. Sometimes it helps learning experience, and sometimes it just destroyed it for them. It was like, I'm slowing you down, don't want to talk to you, not in my group, be quiet. So I want to make sure that the gifted and talented, the high achievers, they're getting pushed to the maximum that they can. I think Becky spoke that if they're reaching the cap, do they reach the cap? And then if they get to the cap, how are we pushing them even further? One to the bottom. It's great that we're able to get into the AP and be challenged and get the rigor, but are we making sure that we're differentiating between the two, that everyone's reaching their max? I think that's kind of what I'm concerned about. But I'm sure, listen, it's new. It's like a Band-Aid. It's going to hurt coming off the first time. We're going to learn it. We're going to go through it. It's a learning curve for us, for you guys. Kudos to everything you guys are doing for it. I think it's a great beginning. I think the feedback's been predominantly positive. I just think that as we do anything, starting off, we're going to, I'd like to survey the students too. That's coming from the student's perspective. I think they're going to give you some insight and some knowledge as to what maybe the concerns are, and they might not be concerned. They might say, I love that Joe was at the bottom, and I'm bringing him back because it's teaching me to reevaluate what I'm learning. Sometimes that's best learning practice, so if we can just look into that. Thank you.
One of the references that I was making to a paradigm shift and changing philosophy is, as a district, in our philosophy of what we're trying to achieve in setting goals, we have to make a decision of what we value more, the N or the X, the number of students participating in the program or the academic results of those in the program, because one will greatly impact the other, typically. What I'm hearing and what I believe myself is we greatly value both. So what we have been exploring are ways to make sure we are enhancing and supporting the learning experiences of all students who challenge themselves in these types of classes.
So I guess my comments and questions, a lot of them have been addressed by my colleagues, pulling out those pre-AP, pre-open enrollment 4s and 5s, comparing them to the post-open enrollment 4s and 5s, very, very important. The data is really encouraging, and it really speaks to our teachers, because it's a completely different situation now, having so many more students and being able to teach on so many different levels. And our teachers have really risen to the occasion, and you can tell that in these numbers. And we're going to have more of a bell curve in Elwood with open enrollment, and that's just the way it is. But sometimes handpicking the best students for every challenging class doesn't really help anybody. So I do believe that. I also believe that having this Capstone program so early on in their career in 10th grade is amazing, because they're already starting to pinpoint their interests. And colleges, I mean, Mrs. Weiss and I can speak a little bit more to the college process, and everything you're saying is correct. They don't want you to memorize. They want you to conceptualize. They want you to work in groups. It's from day one. The best students that used to be the memorizers, and now it's not true anymore. You can't get by in a good school just doing that. So really honing in on the students' interest in 10th grade, I think will help guide them in terms of research that they want to do, and then guide them on AP courses they want to take. Like, instead of taking every AP course and totally bogging yourself down and struggling, really make yourself stand out in government or in the social sciences or in the physical sciences, and really challenge yourself. Once you find your niche in that AP Capstone course and say, wow, I'm really interested in this, you can build your whole portfolio around an interest, and that is much more appealing to colleges than being in every club and taking every AP course and doing mediocre. So I would like to see how the kids are actually doing in the class, because as you said, they don't have to give their AP scores, especially the 12th graders. They're already accepted. The only real AP scores that get sent, if they are requested, are 10th and 11th grade. So how are the kids doing in the class? Because that's on their transcript. And what are we doing for kids that find themselves after the first quarter drowning? what are the teachers doing and what are we doing for those kids and what are their options? That's one question. Go
I
ahead.
can tell you that our academic intervention services at the high school, which is
housed in the library, which I don't know if there was a stigma attached to it or not, but really wasn't used that much over the years. It's really buzzing with activity of all types of students, from students needing remedial work to our honors and our EP students. They've now realized we have, staff members there that are certified in the content area. They're teachers that they can get like quote unquote free tutoring, but it's not free. We're taxpayers paying the salaries, and they're working. So our students in the AP classes, if we notice that they're struggling, we're going to send them there. So that's just one way.
And I had this one. That mirrors what goes on at the college level too. And again, having experienced it with our college-age students, when they're freshmen coming in, they have that stigma, oh, it's AIS, and then by the sophomore year in college, they're like, wow, this is free tutoring, this is helpful, this is teaching me, because a lot of what you talked about is developing that mindset of independent thinking and being able to organize your thoughts and to be able to, understand what you're reading. And as opposed to, like you said, just memorizing it. So
the other question that I have is for the Capstone teachers. Do you actually, is part of the course in the beginning teaching the kids how to work in a group? Because whenever you hear kids working in a group, I think of one person does most of the work and the rest, and that person's angry. And, do you teach the kids the different roles that people play in a group and how a group functions? And I'm wondering if that's part of the curriculum.
It actually, so I'll give you two answers. One, by design, a student cannot contribute to the group. It's by design where it is split up. So for instance, in task 1, they have to, as a group, determine an issue, a real world issue, and then they have to split it up into lenses or perspectives. So for instance, let's just say a student wanted to research, or a group wanted to research something about the environment. And they would look at the contributions, maybe we'll do global warming for instance. One would have to look at the economic impact of global warming, the ethical impact of global warming, the environmental impact of global warming, and let's just say the scientific impact of global warming. And then each student goes off and does their own independent research on that particular lens. They have to come back to the group, teach the group what they had learned about their particular research, and then they have to synthesize all that information into one cohesive argument presentation. So there isn't really, by design, they have their roles set up for them. Some can do better than others, but they have an interest in
And then it's a group grade?
So part of it is the independent research is their own grade, and then the group presentation is the group grade. However, we do address group norms, but I will be honest with you, this is our first year teaching it, so we're learning a lot, and it's something that after our first practice presentation, we saw that, hey, we can improve on this a little bit. We saw some groups that were flying. I mean, they were fantastic, and other groups that struggled a little bit. So now it's reflect on it, and that's what they're doing tomorrow.
And do you switch those groups up? You switch
Yes.
the different projects. And then how do you guys feel about having to cover the 10th grade English, New York State 10th grade English curriculum, and having to do, how do you incorporate that?
So on the 10th grade Regents exam, on the AP Lang exam, there are tasks that require students to write a synthesis argument essay. And that's part of their end of the course exam in AP seminar. So we're hitting on what happens to be for the Regents exam, the most important part, the one that's worth the most points in 10th grade. They're missing out on literature, no doubt about that, but it's a personal choice. I had a student who was totally capable, we had a student who was totally capable of doing well in seminar, and she said, I prefer literature, so she went into 10 honors. So there is that option there that's working. Yeah. Yeah, so the exam's in May, and then after that, I want to hit on skills that relate to the Regents exam and also Lang, so rhetorical analysis, literary analysis. So we do have time to prep them for that.
I see.
So if we want to incorporate short story unit or a novel unit, we could definitely work on those skills too.
Okay, thank you so much. It's exciting. Any other questions, comments? Thank you so much for that presentation.
I have one comment. When we talk about how colleges have different expectations for what students come to campus equipped with, I saw a quote recently that really resonated with me. I will attribute it to the correct individual. The Dean of the School of Social Sciences at Stony Brook University is Professor Tim Moran. And he said schools used to spend a great deal of time preparing students to answer questions. What we want is a generation of students who know how to question answers. And I think that's what's happening in your classrooms.
Thank you very much.
Free to go. Okay, so any discussion items that you'd like to bring up, Dr. Bosser?
No.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve financial matters, item K? Motion by Mrs. Weiss, second by Mr. Tamio. All in favor? 5-0. Can I have a motion to approve the personnel agenda as per attached? Motion. Mrs. Mamalito, second. Mr. Tamio, questions, comments?
Okay. All right, so I'd like to address the lead counselor position.
Item P8B.
P8B. Okay, so a couple of questions, and I'm directing to Dr. Bosser. Can you explain the position? Is it a permanent position? Is it a temporary position? What are the thoughts? How did you come about it? What are your objectives?
Thank you. We recognize that the guidance program at the secondary level is come a long way over the last number of years and really has a positive trajectory on meeting the very varied needs of our student population. But we also recognize that we still have some growth that would truly benefit our students. So when we got together with the counselors and the leadership team at the high school, the question was, what could we do to really start moving forward with some of the gaps that we see? And when we tried to identify what we most wanted to address within our guidance program, it became clear that we were talking about time. We were talking about contact time with students and making sure that our counselors had the most opportunity to meet with students and parents and groups as much as possible. So when we began to look at how they were spending their time, we identified that much of what was preventing them from increasing student contact time were tasks that were more of an administrative capacity or even sometimes a clerical capacity. So we said, how could we redistribute the labor to help to maximize time with students during the school day? And we came up with lots of models, and some of them, unfortunately, just really are not financially feasible at this time. I can't responsibly come to the Board of Education and ask you to support an additional administrator. I can ask you at this time to support adding a full-time counselor, mid-year. And we really wanted to take some additional steps forward this year. So we came up with a concept that we are presenting to the board on a pilot basis, something that we would do for the remainder of this school year, and then measure its effectiveness in adding student contact time to our guidance counselors. And what that was the concept of a lead counselor. And what that would be providing a stipend to one of our existing counselors at the high school who would perform many of these administrative functions, these desk work functions outside of the school day for some additional compensation at a rate that was contractually negotiated with the Teachers Association, so that during the day the counseling team has more time for individual appointments with students, has more time to push into classrooms, has greater time to be on call, so to speak, for when questions arise from parents and students and colleagues, and just give them more time to focus on the priorities. Everything from meeting with college experts, taking trips to campuses to become more informed with the programs, all the things that they struggle to do now. When we did an analysis of where our counseling program is compared to some of our surrounding districts and comparative districts, we have the highest counselor to student ratio in the region. Our counselors are each assigned, right in the neighborhood of 250 students, to be on their caseload, where the state recommendation is below 220, and some of our neighboring districts have ratios that are closer to 150. So we are trying to explore ways to supplement the program to work around that factor that we can't right now completely address. So this pilot program would appoint a lead counselor who's on the agenda tonight, who's been identified from our current team, for her outstanding leadership and organizational skills and her knowledge base of what our needs are. And what we would do was measure the success of the pilot for the remainder of the year and see if we accomplish our goal of creating opportunities for those other initiatives that we feel are essential to the high school guidance program.
Okay, so what you're going to do is, at the end of this pilot, which, in June, July, you're going to look at the amount of that one-on-one time that you have been able to give to the students, and then make a determination whether this was a successful pilot.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then we will move forward with either a recommendation to the board to continue or examine another model that we feel may be even more beneficial.
Okay.
We're trying to be very cognizant of the expense associated, and one of the things that is attractive about this is starting mid-year, it prorates the stipend that we negotiated so that we, for an impact, but a small impact to our budget, can see whether or not this is a model that we want to continue for next year. What we're asking the board to do tonight doesn't obligate the district to do anything with this approach beyond the end of the school year.
Okay, because I had several concerns, and initially I wasn't quite on board with this, and what I really wanted to know was, what was the plan?
Sure.
How are we going to go forward with it? How are we going to measure what we're doing, and really kind of quantify, if we're getting a value for the buck? Because
Exactly.
we don't want to go into a period where we're just going to give a stipend and then it's going to go. The issue with guidance, the conversation with guidance, and guidance is wonderful. In the last couple of years, we've grown so much, but it's a fluid thing. So even in the difference between my oldest child and my second one, there's so much more movement down in the process. It's just a fluid process. So we want to look at models that are going to build that, and we want to analyze it. We don't want to get stuck in a position where we're going to be complacent and have a stipend with a person for 2 or 3 years or 5 years, whatever, without really examining how the value to it. And I think we discussed it, and I think you have a really good plan. Tonight was very focused on the APs, and everything really led back to the foundation of a really focused guidance program. And Carissa, you hit it on the nail before. I think if I was even questioning, which I was, you really told me that one-on-one counselor time, you portrayed to me that it's very focused and that you have a very firm direction on where you're going. And with that, I'm supporting you to follow it.
And thank you. And one of the things that helps to respond to some concerns we've heard from parents and heard tonight is the role of the counselor in our open enrollment program is to guide children in the right direction that matches the profile they've come to the process with. The words that I've used with our counselors is, you need to be the goalie.
Yeah, and also educate the parents too, and communicate to the parents, because even as a parent of, again, college-age students, I really wasn't aware that the AP scores weren't, I hate to admit that. So, so those kinds of things and educating the parents on is also part of it. But
I chose my words very carefully earlier, and some students are placed due to parental influence that may not match the profile that the student has demonstrated. We will rely upon our teachers to play a vital role in helping students to be placed appropriately, but the goalie is the guidance counselor, because they're the ones that help to finalize that scheduling process. And they understand that responsibility, and what they have asked for is greater opportunity to engage directly with the students and parents. This is one small step in trying to help gain them some more time.
And I just want to add to that I do believe that some of that parent encouragement and enrollment can be completely based on false premises. So if we continue to explain the cost benefits of outcome in these classes to parents, we may have better discretionary decisions, right?
Thank you. I think Mrs. Weiss summarized some of the concerns that Dr. Bossert got during the week from most of us. So I appreciate that. So we already got a motion and a second. All in favor of the personnel agenda? 5-0. So I'm going to take the next couple of action items in groups. Number 2, special education. Number 3, the bond numbers. And number 5, which is the audit report. Just mentioning that we'd like to thank the community for that, for our successful bond vote. Looking forward to investing in our future with our facilities. But we need to take number 4 separately. So can I have a motion to approve action items 2, 3, and 5? Mrs. Mamalito, second by Mrs. Marcus. All in favor? Oh, questions or comments? Okay, all in favor. 5-0. Can I have a motion to approve the bond resolution? Action item number 4. Can I have a motion? Mr. Tamio, second by Mrs. Mamalito. And then Mary Lou, you'll take a roll call?
This resolution as drafted by Bond Council requires a roll call vote. When I call your name, please respond with either aye or no. Mrs. Marcus?
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss?
Aye.
Mrs. Mamalino?
Aye.
Mr. Tomio?
Aye.
And Mrs. Freed?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Can I please have a motion to approve the business agenda as attached? Mr. Tamio, second by Mrs. Weiss. All in favor? 5-0. Dr. Bossert.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to go back to the personnel agenda for a moment and make public acknowledgement that in one of the actions the board took tonight was accepting the recommendation of resignation for the purpose of retirement of Mrs. Sharon Gosman, one of our valued clerical staff members at Boyd Elementary School. And having had several conversations with Ms. Gosman, indicating to her that I would not accept her resignation for the purpose of retirement, I would like to go on record to say that the superintendent begrudgingly recommended to the board her retirement, and congratulations to her.
Congratulations, we'll miss her. Are there any items that are not on the agenda that someone would like to bring up? No. Any communications? None. We're up to our second residence remarks. Remarks are limited to items voted on and or discussed at this business meeting. Persons wishing to speak should identify themselves and any organization they represent at the meeting. Comments should be kept as brief as possible, may not exceed 3 minutes. Public discussion of matters relating to staff, students, or others at which their reputations, privacy, or right to due process could in some way be violated is prohibited. Mrs. Ross.
Heather Ross. Just a couple of quick things that I took notes on. One of the things Julie had mentioned is about the group work and teaching them how to do group work and through the AP Capstone. A lot of parents would love to see that on a 6th grade level, learning study skills and group work and that kind of thing, because they're kind of thrown into middle school and they're not getting this.
We just, if I could comment, or Mrs. Hull, we are actually working on a study skills recommendation from the curriculum committee, correct, Mrs. Hull?
Yes, we are preparing a study skills for students across the curriculum, what would be appropriate for our Harley students, Boyd, middle school and high school. And in addition, on our research slide, one of the things we're doing is we're looking at how, specifically how research is taught at each grade, and group work becomes part of that, so that we can sequence and align the skills that we want students to have as they exit each of the grade levels.
Wonderful. Okay, also the next part, I just want to address something. I know Julie, you had said about we don't want to be hand-picking kids for the advanced courses, and I just want to be clear that a lot of us are not against open enrollment as a philosophy and a practice here. And all too often when this conversation comes up, if you have anything negative to say, it becomes you're elitist, you're snobby, or you only want this for certain kids, and that's definitely not the case. I just want to make sure that the way we're rolling it out here is not hindering the top students. Like Becky said, the number, I've thought that many times and asked that. How many kids were getting 5s before? Is that number going down? That's a concern. And then along with what Becky said about the faulty expectations of parents and talking about guidance, I think it's really important that we get our guidance way more involved with that process at the middle school level and at high school. Because talking about looking at the AP scores, it's really important to see what type of student they are, what type of college may be in the future. If we have a child who has their eye on an Ivy League school, the conversation is going to be a little bit different.
Correct.
And with regards to, saying, well, you can take an AP course and not report your score. If you're applying to an Ivy League school and they see all these AP courses and you're not reporting the score, they know you didn't get a 4 or 5 on those courses. And so sometimes that can be a negative for those students.
Absolutely.
That's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Just so you know, I don't think that anybody on the dais thinks that it's a disrespectful conversation to have about, are we serving all our students? I don't think that's disrespectful, and I think it's helpful that we address the needs of all the students, and I really believe that guidance plays a big role in that. And again, these students that are getting into trying to get into Ivy League schools, the guidance and the real focus and standing out in a particular area is the key to that.
Right.
So we welcome comments.
So having
such
guidance
as
have a better role
exactly.
in saying this child is not looking for that.
Right, and just so you know, because it's new to you, and I wanted to point this out before, the 8th grade algebra and earth science is the first time that these kids are getting exposed to that kind of coursework and those expectations. And it's always a big, oh my goodness, to a lot of children that thought, oh, because I was doing great in these lower classes, I'm going to be doing just as well. So a lot of times it does sort of get sorted out in that 8th grade math and science. Same thing with AP Global. That course, is the first time that they're getting exposed to an AP course, and it's a tough one. So I'm really glad that we're thinking about changing it to a 2-year prep course, because that is really tough, and it sometimes discourages students from taking other APs because they're just blown away by that course. So I think that a lot of that separation does happen in 8th grade, and then again with AP Global. So.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely kids who that is going to be a time adjustment. I just see my daughter, and she literally just texted me, my backpack's in your car, and I said, have Dad come get it, and she said, I'm fine. And so she's in those AP, those
Regents courses.
Right, and she's sailing through, which is wonderful, but, I don't want her to get to a point where all of a sudden, it slams on her and she's like, what's going on? And I had another comment that the number of 8th grade parents looking for tutors for advanced courses on Facebook is really, really high, which tells me that there's a lot of kids that are not placed correctly in 8th grade.
Thank you, Mrs. Ross.
Hello, Liz Zabisky, and I wish I would have asked this question in the first residence remarks. But the topic didn't come up until this gentleman mentioned about collaborative learning and group work. So I really want to emphasize the need for that to start at the younger levels, which is actually not part of the discussion for the study skills that we spoke about in the curriculum conversation. So I'd like to make sure that group dynamics and project management skills is kind of introduced at the younger levels. My daughter's in 7th grade and already cringes when she hears it's a group project because she's already experienced I do all the work on. Right, and that's just a fact of life. I mean, that happens with adults in group projects. They say, well, you'll quickly learn group dynamics. You know, there's one person that does all the work, another person says they do all the work, and so on and so forth. So, and there's already been an increase in group projects in the 7th grade. I mean, it's December, and I think she's been on probably 4 or 5 different group or team projects. So it's great that they're doing that now, but she already cringes when she hears group project, and she's only in 7th grade.
I had, Ms. Sadisky, I had the opportunity to attend a conference that was held at the Microsoft headquarters in Times Square recently. And while we were there for educational purposes, we had an opportunity to kind of just observe the environment that the professionals were working in. It was all group, it was all collaborative, it was furniture designed to lend itself to do that. And these were the people who are, creating products that are supporting the world. When we look at our elementary classes and our middle level learners, what we note is students often work amongst each other and not collaboratively. So we are taking targeted efforts to make sure they understand the responsibility of a group dynamic. And teachers are becoming more focused on, as the question was posed to Mr. Chestnut, talking about roles and responsibilities in addition to the assignment. At one time your focus on was, today we're learning about global warming. Now it's, today we're learning about how to work as a team to address the topic of global warming. And it has to be...
happening?
I'm seeing more and more at the elementary level that teachers are being more attentive to helping students to learn to work as a team. And the comments that we keep talking about is students working amongst each other versus working together. And it's two things. And I'm seeing more and more teachers taking the time to specifically address the skills necessary to work collaboratively.
So is that just some teachers are doing it? I would like to see a little more consistency.
My point is we are making it a focus of what teachers need to be doing because it aligns with the K-12 paradigm shift of preparing students for the skills necessary to be successful as college and beyond. And again, this is it. At one of the curriculum committee presentations this year, Mrs. Hull talked about, the did you know statistics, and the one that is most striking is students who are in school today, we are preparing students for 66% of jobs that do not yet exist. So it's about developing their skill sets more so even than their knowledge base. It's not as important now to be able to regurgitate facts, figures, and equations. You can Google that. So it's about these skill sets. So it is a shift in philosophy in our classrooms, but the good news is I'm seeing more and more of it. I'm seeing more professional development dedicated to it. I'm seeing more common planning time being spent on these topics. And I think our teachers have globally realized this is a shift we have to make.
In the STEAM room that we have over in the Mrs. Hall, over in Boyd, isn't that one of the primary objectives, is the kids working in groups on items?
The makerspace?
The makerspace, thank you.
100%. Yeah, that is what that room is designed to do. Exploratory thinking.
And how about a component of Teachers College? I thought we talked about that the other night in curriculum. My youngest is in 5th grade, and I see, again, a big difference between my oldest and my youngest, and I think by the time they get into high school, between the combination of the Common Core and the skills from the Teachers College And yes, you know, the stuff that we're going to be doing on curriculum with the organization and study skills, and I'm sure we will talk about group dynamics and the roles that everybody plays in that. It's coming forward.
It's very interesting. My daughter goes to graduate school and at Columbia, and they gave them a research project in a group, and they did the project, and it really was for just to see how they worked in the group, and then the instructor made them write a paper on each member of the group and how what was the role. So the research was really meaningless. It was just how you all contributed. So you had to change people's names. So she changed the name and made everybody Peanuts names like Linus and Lucy and this. And she made me read it, and she was like, well, who am I? And I'm like, you're Lucy, of course. And she's like, no, I'm Linus. And I'm like, I don't think you are. But it's just interesting because even at the higher levels, people are really looking at how you perform something in a group and how you work together, and what even the quietest person can contribute a lot. So kids have to learn that. And I think we're starting to do that. Any other resident remarks? Okay, can I have a motion to re-enter into executive session? Motion by Mrs. Marcus, second by Mrs. Marmoleone. All in favor? 5-0.